So, let me just start and say, my name is Colette Stott. I'm the area sales manager for Home Warranty. I really appreciate you coming out on this, with the hurricane bearing down on us. So thank you for coming out and spending some time with me this evening. I appreciate it. I've been in real estate since the late 90s, primarily in relocation. So sometimes I have people in the office in a training that have had a bad experience with home warranties. They left a bad taste in their mouth. So that's why I want to tell you first and foremost, the biggest difference with us, which is the claims. And that's where that's where the problems come in, right? So with our company, you can see in the inside here, it says start a claim. Really easy. Pick up the phone. The homeowner calls us, says, hey, my dishwasher isn't working. We give them a claim number. They hang up, they call whoever they want to come out and fix that dishwasher. So it could be a neighbor that you have, it could be a relative, it could be anybody who fixes dishwashers. The only kind of caveat is, say if it's plumbing, it's electrical work, and somebody would need a license to do that work, they would need to have that license. But if it's a family member, it doesn't matter. You get them to come out, they look at the problem, call us back. And we have 2 call centers in Michigan. Pretty much everyone's still working from home. Has not affected our call wait time. It's still in the seconds. So it's not a big process of saying, oh my gosh, now I have to sit on the phone for a half an hour and wait to talk to the claims folks. That's not the case. It might be a little bit longer. AC season, it's tough. People don't tend to wait when their AC goes down and it's 90 degrees out. They want it fixed and they're on the phone, and so we get a large volume of calls. That's kind of winding down. So when you call in, you shouldn't be on the phone waiting to either get that claim number, or B, when your technician has figured out what the problem is, to call back in. We figure out, hey, what's covered, what's the amount. They do the work. 3 things can happen at that point. They can call us and the homeowner can say, you know what, the work's completed, I'm happy with it, and we can pay them over the phone with a credit card. The homeowner can pay them, we can reimburse the homeowner. Right now we are sending out checks. It's like a 5 to 7 business day turnaround, but we are working on, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll actually be able to do direct deposit. So sometimes people, and and maybe it's your next door neighbor, he fixes appliances for a living, but when he comes out and does it for you, he's not necessarily doing it like sort of on the clock. So he's presenting an invoice. He doesn't have any way of taking credit card payments, right? So the homeowner pays him, gives them a check or cash or whatever, and then we reimburse the homeowner. Or if they want to give us their W-9, we can write a check. But we are working on doing direct deposit for checks instead of having to snail mail out checks, because it just became such a problem last year around the end of the year, if you remember. And that was when people were telling you in February, they just got your Christmas card that you mailed in December 1st. It was everybody I talked to had some story about, something that arrived 3 months later in the mail. So we started really looking into it. It's like, it was a problem. And for us even to get paid, because most of our payments come from checks at closing. So we were waiting. I was seeing, 2 months down the road, closing took place, the attorney's saying, yes, we mailed the check, and we still haven't been paid. Now, should that happen, say you order the warranty, it goes to closing, the attorney's mailing out the check, and they say, okay, the next morning it's gonna go in the mail. We may not get it for 5 or 6 days, given today's mail. We wait until the check clears, and then we mark it as closed. In the meantime, suppose your client has something happen and they need to file a claim. So what happens is, maybe it's the next day, maybe it's the day after closing, the check's actually still in the mail, and they need to file a claim. They can still file a claim. They're able to have somebody come out and do the whole process. The only thing is, we can't pay anybody until we receive payment for the warranty. So they can go ahead, we can, say, hey, when we get payment, X number of dollars will be approved. So they can go ahead and get the repair done. And they can pay that whoever that technician is, and it could be a friend or a family member, as I said, pay them, and then we'll reimburse them as soon as the payment comes in. So it doesn't stop them from being able to make the claim and being able to move forward with having, the repairs made. Because that sometimes is what happens. They're never calling us and paying service fee to start a claim. We don't work that way. Once you've paid us for the warranty, you never pay us anything again. We're there to facilitate payment for the homeowner. So it's really different. So if you've had other experiences, this is probably 180 degrees from what that experience was, and it keeps the homeowner in control. We were just talking about $800,000 houses and $1 million houses, and it's actually one of the things that in luxury too, people really like our warranty, because now they can make sure, they've got a Sub-Zero refrigerator. They can make sure this is a tech who's certified to repair Sub-Zero, because the last thing you want is to walk into your kitchen and find your tech on YouTube, how to fix Sub-Zero.
Nope.
That's not what you want, because you've just sunk all this money into a Sub-Zero, and it's an investment, and you plan to keep it for 25 years maybe. It's definitely an investment, and you don't want someone messing around with that who doesn't know Sub-Zero. It's not the same as the GD or the Frigidaire or any of the others that are out there. So that's just a little overview about how we work and how we're a little bit different. So does anybody have any questions about that part of it? Okay. Are we moving? No? Do I have to? Oh, there we go. I had a heavy. So we're going to talk about market conditions, facts about listing with warranties, seller coverage, mindsets of buyer seller, and it seems like we don't have COVID-19 behind us just yet. I kind of thought at one point we did. Now, listing warranty objections, and then how does this benefit you? How does it help you grow your business? That's really important. Here I do that. So days on market at an all-time low. However, I am starting to talk to agents who are saying, you know what, still selling really fast, but instead of 15 offers, there might be 5. And it might be now a week or 2 before we actually go under contract. So just a little bit of a dip. Is anybody seeing that? Like a sort of a pause in the marketplace? Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. So low inventory, multiple offers. I don't know where that's gonna end, quite honestly. We've been in this low inventory situation for about 6 years. It just keeps getting worse. And the worrisome thing is with the price of materials for new construction going up, I don't see that solving our problem in the near future. So that's really a difficult thing, when you're working with buyers especially. If you're getting listings, it's great. So litigation on the rise. So one of the things that we offer for agents, and if you look on this very back page, which is sort of the application, and believe it, we still have people who fill these out and either fax them in or email them in, even though you can go online, you can call the 800 number. People still do use this. But why do you want to keep it handy, whether it's in, I'm gonna send the PDF of this to you, but why do you want to keep it handy, and in either form, whichever works for you, is because if you either have the warranty on your transaction, or you've gotten your buyer or seller, whoever you're working with, to sign the waiver, should you have any type of an E&O claim on that transaction for up to 12 months after closing, we're there with 75% of your deductible up to $3,750. So if you have a $5,000 E&O deductible, you would pay $3,750. Does anybody know what their E&O deductible is? That's good. I always ask that question. If no one knows, that's good. That means no one's ever had to use it. So that's perfect. But what we're finding is the number, we call client secure, and the number of agents coming to us and saying, hey, I have a lawsuit, I had to file an E&O claim, I need you to pay my 75% of my deductible. That's on the rise across the board for us. We're seeing more agents coming to us looking to get that client secure. I know out in Michigan, I was on a call last week, and my colleague out in Michigan, and I don't know what Delaware or Pennsylvania stats are. Traditionally, like historically, in Michigan, 1.5% of transactions end up in some type of lawsuit. This year to date, it's 4.5%. And think about the buyer by the time they get to closing, what they've been through. So can you imagine them saying something goes wrong and it's like, tell it to a judge, because they've been pushed to their limits. Whether it's paying over appraised value, over list price, over appraised value, waiving inspections, everything that's happened. So lawsuits for all different reasons, and in this case, it doesn't have to be something to do with home warranty. It's just any reason that you're filing an E&O claim on that transaction for up to a year. And what my, as I said, I've been on the brokerage side, I was on the brokerage side for many, many years. And when you get pulled into a lawsuit, so often you didn't even make $5,000. It's one of those deals where, the commission was really low, and now you're digging into your pocket to write a check for your E&O deductible, which could be more than you actually made on that deal. And that's what typically happens. And it usually is, you did everything you were supposed to do. You didn't do anything you weren't supposed to do, but everybody gets dragged in from all sides when there's a lawsuit. So that's just what happens. So getting to closing also, takes a little bit longer, because I know in our market, a broker up in Pennsylvania told me we have a 20 to 25% fallout on, the first buyer. So it's taking a little bit more time then. It's taking another 30, 45, 60 days to get to closing. We've got coverage I'll talk about for the seller. So first buyer falls through, we've got the coverage is gonna take that seller through to the actual closing. But in many cases, when there's a warranty in place, that buyer, if it's not a case of their financing fell through, it's a case of they are looking at, and I heard people in this room saying how buyers are really unhappy now because if they've been looking for a while, what they were looking at back in April in their price range was a lot nicer than what they're seeing in the price range now. They're not happy. So in some cases, they're doing whatever they can. I had a situation, my son-in-law's parents, they got out of a deal, and the only reason they were able to get out of it, because they had buyer's remorse, was the one thing they were doing was a septic inspection, and it failed the septic inspection, and they walked away. It was not a good deal for them. It was a beautiful house. It just wasn't a good deal for them, and they walked away. So sometimes though, when you have something like a home warranty in place, you're gonna find that a buyer isn't as likely to jump because they're scared or they're having remorse because they know they've got a safety net. So it kind of keeps them in play, just because in their head they're saying, I can do this, because it can be scary right now to buy a house. No two ways about it. It's a great investment, and historically it's always going to be a great investment and a way to build wealth, but it can definitely be a little bit scary right now. So we found that through different studies, NAR, Gallup, homes with a warranty, even in this market, still sell for on average for about 3%. I think in this market it's really more like 2.8%. But think about that for the coverage for you and for the seller and the buyer's peace of mind. With the way prices are going up, if you get 2.8% more on the house, that warranty is already been a really good investment. Even if you never used it, just for the peace of mind, but we know something usually goes wrong. This could be a factor, a little bit. Right now, we're seeing things slow down a little bit, so if you want to get it sold immediately as opposed to waiting that whole 2 weeks to get it under contract, it might help there. It hasn't been a big factor in the past year or so, though. So, and just keeping deals together, just keeping the buyers, from getting cold feet. And then the other thing, and we talk about using the warranty for referrals, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Revenue, because with your office we have the $49 per transaction that we're able to pay you through KW. Risk management with Client Secure and List Secure for the seller. But I always talk about relief as the fourth R, because when you close and there's a problem with the house, and you don't have to get a phone call from an angry person saying, my heater just went out. What am I supposed to do? I don't have any cash left. I'm broke. I bought this house for you. You told me it was a good investment, and how am I going to get the heater fixed? Well, you can say, hey, remember, we got you a warranty. Call in a claim and get it fixed. So that's the relief, is being able to say, oh my gosh, somebody else is going to take care of this. So we're your secret weapon to winning more listings. Last week I heard one day, I forget which way it was, but there was a slide that Gary Keller had This is nationally, it could be higher in this market, but he said there are 0.25 listings, so like a quarter of a listing per agent nationally. So think about, and I think it is higher in this area. Think about how competitive it is to win a listing. Like, what do you have to do to be that winning agent that wins the listing? Well, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I'm gonna provide a warranty. We're gonna cover you during the listing period up until closing. Should there be any type of legal action for 2 years after closing, we have list secure. So America's Preferred is gonna cover the first $1,000 of legal fees if you have to hire an attorney. Your commissions ultimately are gonna be higher if you're at 2.8% higher sales price. That's gonna result in more revenue. But reducing risk is so important, because as I said, it always is that one deal you did, maybe it was an investment property, and you didn't even make what your deductible is, and now you're digging deep. So I have a lot of top producers that throughout this entire period with listings selling so quickly have been putting a warranty on every listing for all those reasons: the revenue, the risk reduction, the referrals, everything that comes out of that. So referrals, is anybody in here, do you use Zillow, Realtor.com, or anything for referrals? So it can be expensive, right? It's expensive. So what do you do for lead generation? What's your personal best source for leads?
Door to door.
Door knock, yeah?
Yeah, it's mainly just word of mouth and previous clients, people I know, just working the sphere.
Yeah.
Open house.
Yeah. So last week, another thing I heard Gary Keller talking about a lot was building your database, right? So think about this: you've won the listing and you offered the warranty, and sometimes you're paying for it. It's just a cost of doing business. It's like, hey, if you list with me, I'll provide this, and it wins you the listing. Sometimes you can say to the seller, here's why I think you ought to offer a warranty, and they pay for it, and it's really, they're not even gonna feel it because you pay for it at closing, and they're probably making more than they ever imagined on the sale of this house anyway. So it's really not a pain point for them financially, because sellers and listing agents have the money now. Buyers, I think, are desperate by the time they close. And if you work with a lot of buyers, if your business is heavy on buyers, you're really busy. But how many have actually gotten to closing that you've gotten a paycheck, right? It's tough. It's really, and I heard even really seasoned, I was on the phone this morning with a very, very seasoned top producing agent. And she has a lot of listings, but she also works with a lot of buyers. And she's struggling. And she knows every way to win a listing. I mean, she's a master at it. She's still got buyers. She's been carting around for 6 months. It's just the way it is. So listings will always be the lifeblood of this business, no matter what. So use it. So, because sellers, they want to sell fast, they want to get the most money, and they want to avoid hassles. And those are all the things that we provide when they've got a listing warranty in place. Now, to have that coverage for the seller, it does have to be on the listing before it goes under contract. So in this market, we better to do it the day of the listing than to wait. You might have a week until it goes under contract. So think about it, but here's the thing: there's really no risk when you put the warranty on the listing, because so they've got the complimentary coverage, or for $75 we can upgrade and they can do the heat, the air conditioner, and the kitchen appliances. So just suppose it goes on the market, you put the warranty on it. For whatever reason, they change their mind and they decide, you know what, we're done. We've been looking for that other house. We haven't found it. We don't want to sell. We're just done. So you cancel it, right? You don't owe anything. The only way you'd ever owe anything if you had to cancel for some reason is if they did that $75 upgrade and they had a claim on one of those upgrade items, then they would owe $75, but that would be it. So you'd walk away. So there's really no risk in just putting it on there, because the most it could cost you if you end up canceling it would be $75. And if you ended up paying $75 and you got a listing, in this market, that's a cheap referral, right? Right? You're not gonna see a whole lot of that.
Cheaper than buying leads.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna get that complimentary coverage for the seller. You don't pay till closing. We talked about list secure, that $1,000 in legal fees. They can upgrade for $75, and then it's a reduced risk for the seller before, during, and after the transaction, so that they are not worried about things that happen after the fact. My husband worked for General Motors for many years, and we were transferred. And there's a program in place. It's how I got into relocation. When you do a corporate buyout, where you're not, I sell my house to the corporation sells the house to the ultimate buyer. And I didn't realize when we first started making these moves and we had that in place, how protected I was. That the reason they did that two-step transaction was because my husband and I were not associated with that transaction with the buyer at all. So it really took the risk out of it for us. But that's not available to the average seller, doesn't have that. They're selling directly to the buyer, they're part of that transaction. So COVID, I just think, for us, with being able to control who's coming in and when they're coming in, it was really something that people held a great deal of comfort with, because they could choose who it was when they were coming in. I mean, I know I have a daughter-in-law who's absolutely terrified of COVID, and she would schedule things so that, I'm not sure in the long run how this worked, but she would take our two granddaughters and go to her parents' house when somebody had to come in to fix something. But then my son was there. So he was exposed to it, and then she came back into the house, but she wouldn't be in the house when somebody was coming in. They unfortunately, it turned out beautifully, but they were in the middle of putting in the kitchen, and when all this started with COVID. So it was something else. She was running back and forth to her parents' house a lot, having people in. But there are a lot of other people like that, and I don't know where we are now, whether we're heading back into something like last year or not. Hopefully not. So you're able to choose that time. So for her, somebody like that, it was really important to be able to say, this is when the plumber's coming, so that she could get herself out of the house and not be there when the plumber came, and not have somebody saying, we're sending our plumber out at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Like it or not, maybe your parents can't take you in at that time. Too bad, they don't care. So the other thing is, it says choose how to spend your approved claim payments. So let's say your refrigerator stops working. It's older, you're just, and refrigerators don't last as long as they used to anymore. But, it's an $800 repair. And you're thinking, do I really want to fix this? It's probably, something else is probably gonna happen 6 months from now. You decide, you know what, I think I just want a new one. Then you can tell us that and say, hey, that $800, I'm buying a new one. I want that money towards a new refrigerator. I don't want to fix this one anymore. So that's something that the homeowners always think, it's their decision. Do I want to repair or do I want to replace?
Nice.
That's something they're allowed to do. So a couple things that happen when you're talking about listings. Some agents will say, well, I'll tell my seller to wait until negotiation. If the buyer asks for it, we'll get it. If we have to, we'll do it. So then the seller doesn't get list secure. The seller doesn't get any coverage at all. They're not standing out in terms of a value, because I think that's part of right now with the marketplace. Buyers are starting to think, oh my gosh, if I pay this, what's going to happen 2 years from now? If something comes up, if I need to sell, if I need to move, whatever, they're really starting to think, what's the best value for me here? They're starting to have those thoughts more than they were for a while. I think it was just a frenzy. If I can get this house, I'm gonna get it, and I don't care how much I have to pay for it. But now things are setting in. I think people, if you don't have to move, I think most people will be fine. If for some reason you would have to move, it could be an issue. So then you don't have any negotiating power, because I know price-wise, most agents tell us we're the best bang for the buck in terms of prices. But at that point, then you've got a buyer who's probably coming in, they're gonna say, well, I want XYZ, that's what I want. I don't care if that same coverage, that package, that $685 that I could have gotten with America's Preferred, I don't care. I want this one that's gonna cost $800 or $900, that's what I want. So now the sellers, if they wanna make that deal happen, it's more money out of their pocket. So just one more cost to my seller. They don't pay anything till closing, and as we said, we're probably gonna be able to show them a slightly higher price, which will definitely cover the cost of having that warranty in place. Number 3, this is a really big one because it says they don't cover anything. So what difference does it make? You might say you cover X, Y, and Z, but it's hard to get a claim approved. Well, for us, our business model, when you look, I'm on the real estate transaction side, but we have a direct-to-consumer side. Direct-to-consumer is more expensive. There's a 30-day waiting period before the coverage starts. We keep it lower on the real estate transaction side because we know sometimes agents are paying for it out of their own pocket. Or somebody could be a seller in a different market, a seller that's really in trouble, and this is just, another thing that's gonna cost them to get the house sold. So we try to keep that price low. If we, during that first year, don't cover the claims, who's gonna renew? Because where our business can really grow and take off is when people renew and they, year after year after year. This is sort of the cost of acquiring a customer, is really through the real estate transaction. So if they don't cover anything, no one's gonna renew. Our business isn't gonna grow, it's gonna shrivel up for sure. But the other thing to remember is because of our relationship with KW, if you would ever have somebody who's upset or unhappy with a claim, typically when that happens, at least for me, it's usually because it's something that it says right in here we don't cover, and they're upset about that. But sometimes we're able to make things happen, because we always want this to be a really good reflection on you. We want this to be an opportunity to get referrals. So the other thing I want to talk about with referrals, because this is a big thing in terms of growing your databases. It was a big topic of conversation with MegaCamp. So you're the listing agent. Either you paid for the warranty or your seller paid for it. It's on the listing, closes, co-op has the buyer. A month or 2 after closing, say the heater stops working. You're gonna get first an email saying, hey, 123 Main Street, there was a $1,500 claim for a heater that we paid last week. But because emails can kind of, slip through the cracks, I get that list every week of what claims in my territory. I'm gonna call you and say, Steve, remember that buyer on your listing at 123 Main Street? Heater broke down, $1,500 repair. Now you have a perfectly legitimate reason to pick up the phone and call that buyer and say, hey, I'm Steve, you remember, I was the listing agent when you bought this house, and I heard that you had a claim on the warranty that I provided or my seller provided. Just wanna make sure everything went okay. Are you happy? Was it fixed? Did everything work out well? Now, you can take that person and put them in your database, and that's someone you can start marketing to. For no extra charge, because it was part of the warranty, that's something we're gonna do for you. So we're gonna keep doing that. First year, if they renew, second year, as long as they've got that warranty in place, you're gonna get those warranty cards, and you're gonna say, hey, here's an opportunity. Pick up the phone and call this person. Now get them in your database, because you have a legitimate reason to call. So does that make sense in terms of growing your business? So benefits to you: listings sell for more dollars, which means higher commission, fewer hassles after the sale. Once the sale's over, you don't want to have to worry about anything. You've jumped through hoops, negotiating, everything that you go through to finally get to closing. Once it's done, let it rest. That revenue that can help offset some of your fees that you have, the cost of doing business. Some of the ways that you can get referrals. Another way that you get referrals is, think about, and maybe it's your buyer and they've got the warranty. They're new to the area or they're first-time buyers, and something goes wrong and they're like, oh, who do I call? Like, I don't have a plumber, I don't know who to call. They're probably gonna call you and say, hey, Grace, who do you use? I've got a plumbing issue. Can you help me? That's a great opportunity, because every agent, by the time you've been in the business for a year, 2, 3 years, you've got your go-to list of contractors, plumbers, electricians, everybody. That's a great way for you to send a referral to somebody in your professional network, so that when they think about real estate and somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm thinking about selling my house, who should I call? We're like, call Robert. Call Robert. He's the only person to call, because Robert's calling them saying, hey, can you go out? I've got this listing at 123 Main Street. Can you go out and do this? Can you do that? So it really is something. the door hangers, because you said that you have been door knocking, which is great. We are not printing the door hangers right now. As soon as we have them, I'll get them out to the offices, but I can send you a PDF. So a lot of agents, what they're doing is they're using them on social media and they're posting it. So if you're a part of maybe like a neighborhood group on Facebook for certain places where you're farming, you can actually put it in there and it says list with me and I'll provide a warranty on your house. So you can use it that way. We had stopped printing the paper ones once COVID hit, because I think even, well, I know in Pennsylvania, you weren't supposed to be leaving anything. If you put too much, you couldn't show it, so that's the thing, yeah. But once everything opened up, you couldn't even leave a business card in the house. So we stopped printing them, but I have a feeling eventually we will get back to them, but we definitely still do have the PDFs available, so you can do that. We've got on our Real Pro, you can go in, and now everything is KW. We've got the marketing materials, we have the red sign riders, the warranty book, because everything now is KW. It's red, white, and gray, it's beautiful. You can order them on Real Pro, it's free, shipping's free. So anything you need, just do that. So, and when I send you the email with the PDF of this, and I'm gonna send you the data collection form so you can get paid on the closed warranty. If you're interested in setting up a Real Pro account, we can do like a 10-15 minute call. I'll show you how to set it up, I'll show you the site. You can order a warranty in about 45 seconds. You can do the data collection on there. You can actually get the invoice and send it right to the attorney's office without having to go out into your email and attach it. You can send it right from the site. So if you wanna set it up, I'll walk you through it, we'll get you set up on Real Pro. You can also order all of those materials from Real Pro right there. So with the click of a button, we'll send them, you know, if you want them sent to your house, you can do that. So what we wanna do is be your partner and be there, help you win more listings, get referrals, and get repeat business. That people are really happy about us as one of the providers that you brought to the table, and they're gonna come back to you when it's time to buy another house, or somebody in their family's moving, they're gonna bring you in. So, would love to, as I said, we'll set up a meeting, we'll get you up on Real Pro, any questions or anything, we'll get together and we'll do something more one-on-one. So, but does anybody have any questions from this? I threw a lot at you today, right? It was a lot, especially if you're new to the business. Because some things, for the people that are really seasoned, it's like, yeah, and it clicks right away. But if you haven't done a transaction yet, you're like, oh, what are you talking about?
Everybody knows where I'm at, but it seems like it's a good deal.
I think so. It's fun. I'll tell you a story. Robert, I might have told you this story, or Steve, so if I did, I apologize. But most of my career in real estate, I was a relocation director. And part of that was corporate properties where somebody would sell their house to their employer, it was vacant, put it on the market. So we get these vacant properties in and we have to get them sold. And they always came in with a home warranty on them, right? Never failed, something would go wrong, call the home warranty company, and it would take forever, excuse me, to get someone out there to look at it. In the meantime, I'm getting nasty phone calls from the relocation management company saying, Colette, why is the dishwasher fixed? Why isn't the hot water heater fixed? Well, if I could have gotten my person out there, it would be fixed. But I'm waiting for your home warranty company to send someone out there to get it fixed for me. So I had to be very diplomatic about that, but I was never a champion of home warranty. So a lot of people in the real estate world were extremely surprised to see that I started working for a warranty company, and like, what gives? Like, what's up? What made you make that switch? I said, well, you know, I was approached by recruiter from America's Preferred, and I said, she's fabulous, she's one of my favorite people in the company, and I really liked the company, I liked so much about it, but I was a little bit like, a home warranty company? You're like, could you maybe sell something else? Like, could you do title or something different? But when she started explaining the business model to me, and I was like, Amy, where have you been all these years? Because if I could have dealt with America's Preferred, I never would have had those uncomfortable conversations with the relocation management company, because I had a whole list, and all of my agents had lists of people who would come out immediately. I called them and said, you know what, something's leaking, can you come out and fix it? Maybe out there that day, or maybe at the latest the next. It would be, completed, taken care of. Love the fact that I didn't have to deal with the bills, because the process with billing was, we would pay that plumber or electrician, and then we'd have to go back to the relocation management company and submit for reimbursement. So it was a lot of, especially during times when it was really a buyer's market and we had a lot of those listings, it was a big expense to have someone taking care of that portion, plus floating that money. It was 30, 45 days where we put the money out there and paid for the repair until we were reimbursed. Could be 60 days sometimes. So I would have been thrilled if I had been able to say, oh yeah, you just call them and get them to pay you with a credit card, so I don't have to worry about going through that whole process of paying you and getting reimbursed. I would have been in heaven. So this would have worked perfectly for relocation, but it wasn't a factor. It wasn't never available to me. So that was what made me ultimately say, this is a great company. Love the people here. KW's culture and our culture are very similar. There's a lot about the two that mesh really well. I want to be a part of this, and yeah, I know I can be the person that can show agents how to use this and be successful with it. With a different process, I couldn't do that, because I had too many situations where I was the one that had the pain point over the claim process. So I wasn't able to do that. So an agent said to me, you should be telling that story in every training. So if I had told it to either of you before, I apologize. But it does, it turned my head around totally about home warranties. Grace.
So does this mean that it makes it easier for the buyer to settle on the home if it has a warranty, because if they waive the inspection or something and something was wrong,
right,
then you have the warranty to rely on, right?
They've got help getting it fixed, and we don't require a home warranty
And
or a home inspection.
Even if they don't waive the home inspection, because when the inspector checks stuff, especially if that's a water heater or heating system, they will check if it's working.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's working, a month later, it can stop working.
Yeah.
You can't do anything, because when it was checked, it was working. So if it stops a month later, then you have to take care of that, and that's what cover that as well.
Yeah, so it's either way, I mean, whether they have a home inspection or not, but we don't require a home inspection for coverage. That's
And
all.
then after the deductible, how much do you guys pay?
Well, it depends, I mean, so there's a cap on some things you'll see in there, for a refrigerator, it's $1,000. So what would happen is, say we talked about an $800 repair for a refrigerator, and maybe that person wanted to go ahead and get it fixed, and they had a $50 deductible. So it's kind of like the doctor's office. They would pay that technician the first $50, and then we would pay them the remaining $750.
Okay, so what if someone's refrigerator and their AC went out? Do they still get and they pay the deductible, and then they get this amount for the refrigerator and this amount for the AC, and that can happen at the same time?
Yes. Now you would pay a deductible for both repairs.
Twice.
You would pay
For each
the
claim.
first $50 to the person repairing the refrigerator, the first $50 to the person repairing the AC, because it's two different service providers, usually. I mean, typically it would be two different people.
To expand on her question, what if it was like a complete fallout and, they had 8 different things that they needed to file a claim for? Obviously, it would be 8 different, deductibles, but what is your company's
Claim amount per year.
max claim amounts and totals?
It's an aggregate for the first year, it's $25,000.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then, but there are, for certain things, there is a cap. So for heating and air conditioning, it's $22.50 each. And you'll see, it's all in here, and the numbers, the dollar amounts are in bold. So you'll be able to see, what they all are, what they cover. But yeah, it's $25,000 in total. So years ago, we do cover foreclosures. I hope that's not gonna become a part of our market. The only difference with the foreclosure is that there is a 30-day waiting period before we start covering it. But years ago, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the main line in Philadelphia. Very expensive area. And one of my sons, a friend of his parents bought a house, and it had been, it was coming coming out of like the 2009, 2010. So there's actually, it was a foreclosure in Berlin, which, you know, today it's like a dream, that doesn't happen. But one of the things they did, it had a home warranty on it, and I just remember, it was almost like a party every time something went wrong, because she'd be like, the heater went. And towards the end of the year, she was waiting, there was like one thing that didn't go, and she was just like, oh, every time I turn it on, I just keep thinking, oh, please break down, please break down. So some people do use it a lot. Some people it's once, and sometimes some people are lucky if they don't, and nothing goes wrong. But they've got the peace of mind of knowing. And really, let's face it, we want to get that peace of mind to get them to closing. And then if there is a problem afterwards, that it's not your problem. That there's somebody there to
And
take
the
care
buyers
of
will
it.
call you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They will. They're not, especially now, I just think because they've been pushed to the limits. So if they,
What do I do?
they're just like ready, as we've seen in Michigan, because we know the numbers there, it's like a threefold increase in the number of lawsuits. I don't know does anybody know, are there any stats for Delaware? Does anybody know what that is?
I don't know.
I haven't looked at it.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't matter, right?
I imagine, you know, return business from these, the people who may or may not have filed a claim is big for the company as well, right?
See, that's really where the growth is for us, so
Mhm.
that's why when you say, you know, they don't cover anything, well, if we don't cover anything, no one's gonna renew.
Right.
So it just doesn't help us to not cover a claim.
If somebody had a couple of claims in their first year, does that increase their rate the next year, or like an insurance company would be?
I don't believe so. It's not like insurance rates.
Mhm.
It's like, here's our rates. They are different, like some states are a little bit higher just because things that are required by law. So it's $425 in Delaware is the base, and in Pennsylvania also. I know there are some states where I think it's $475 is the base. And it's because of things that are required to cover
Yeah.
certain coverage that's required. But no, it's not like your car insurance.
Like if somebody had a bad year and they're like, oh, I love this company, you know, they helped me out so much, I'm gonna keep coming back, so you're not gonna be like, well, you know, because you use so much, you cost me so much money.
No, but it
gonna be
is a
easier.
little higher on the direct-to-consumer side.
So once the one that we install
Right,
expires.
the next year, it is a
right,
little
okay.
bit higher. Part of that is we trying to keep the price low, because
Right.
sometimes it's coming out of your pocket. Also, you know, traditionally, and not really so much in this market, but traditionally, there was a home inspection. So we knew when the coverage started, as Robert said, it was working. It may not have the longest life ahead of it, but we know on the day that this policy starts, everything's working. Now, we don't necessarily know that anymore, because I'd say about half of the deals come through don't have a home warranty. And I think we get a bigger percentage of the ones without the home inspection than the ones that did have a home inspection. I think we just get more, like a bigger piece of the pie on those deals, just because of all the exposure on that. Does anybody have any other, you guys have good questions. Well, you know where to find me. I'll send you an email, you'll have all my contact information. I'll send you a PDF, I'll send you the data collection. And then if you wanna do real pro, just send me like a couple dates and times, and we'll set up a call. And, you know, we can go through some other things too. If you think of more questions, that's a good time for us to dig a little deeper into certain things. You guys have great questions though.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming, I appreciate it. It's good to see everybody.
Yeah, same
Take
here.
care, stay safe. Stay safe out there. Thank you, I will. I'm actually headed up to Westchester for one stop, and then I'm headed